Good evening, everyone. It's 5 o'clock and it's time to start our career talk. Thank you, everyone who has joined this career talk on the right time. And myself, Meghna Khan, I am the founder of MK Counseling Services. I help the students and the working professionals aligning their passion and strength with the career choices they make. And we have been doing this career talk series for more than 2 months now, covered various topics from doctors to aviation to data science and artificial intelligence. And today we have the most important topic, which is about finance and accounting. And before we start on the question answer session on that, I would like to give you a brief history behind this whole stream, which has been there into the place from so many years, but still we have different notions about it. So the story of commerce is basically the story of our world. In the simple language, if you talk about commerce, it's nothing but the act of exchanging one thing of value with the other. This simple concept had an incredible impact on the world and the way we interact with each other. To keep track of these exchanges, the discipline of accounting was developed. If commerce was a person, accounting would be the language of that person. It is the language of business for both financial as well as non-financial information, which is very important to understand because we generally associate it with the finance only. So while accounting as a discipline is thousands of years old, the modern accounting that we know today can trace its roots in the mid 1400s when trading in large quantities started to boom. As business became more complex, the practice of accounting keep pace with the intricate formulas and technology tools to help manage the increased amount of data. Today, we recognize the profession of accounting with the title Chartered Certified Accountant. This title is given only to the members of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, or ACCA. ACCA is a global organization established more than 100 years back and was the first accountancy body to allow women as its members. Now, this is something important. ACCA has more than 233,000 members worldwide and is based out of 178 countries. ACCA qualification is considered to be the gold standard in accountancy, and I'm pleased to host today Mr. Tahir from ACCA on our career talk. Welcome, Tahir.
Thank you, Meghna. It's a pleasure being on this and sharing my views. Thank you for having us over.
Yeah, thank you. So I would like to introduce you also to the audience here. So Mr. Tahir is the Regional Education Manager at the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants in the Middle East. Tahir's responsibility is for establishing and nurturing key relationship with educational institutions, as well as ensuring existing students supported through their qualification journey. Tahir is an experienced coach and trainer committed to mentoring students taking their first steps into accounting and finance while working alongside seasoned professionals wishing to further enhance their career skills. So Tahir, let's start off with the conversation we discussed. And I would also request the audience here that if you have any question for us, please type it in the chat box and we will take it up. So Tahir, before we start up, how did you came into this field? When you decided for it and when you felt that, yes, this is what something I want to do?
Very interesting question, Meghna. I mean, professionally, and a lot of people get surprised when I say this, but professionally, I'm a qualified chartered accountant myself as well. So I work for the actual body now that that I've qualified out of.
Must be so proud feeling.
It is actually, yeah. It feels good, and I think the passion comes through, certainly because I've lived the entire journey. It's like been there, bought the T-shirt, so experience how it is, being an ACCA student to an ACCA affiliate to a member, working in the profession, and then moving towards the education side a couple of years later. So it's
Yeah.
like having that whole sort of holistic view of everything and all different spheres of experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But I stumbled upon the entire, my journey has been quite unplanned, I could say. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Typically born and brought up in Mumbai, in India,
Okay.
bit coming from a South Asian background. As soon as I was in school and I was about to finish my 10th grade, that question started lurking everywhere. Every person you met in the family, every discussion on the dinner table would be around, so what are you thinking about your future? And, where do you want to go ahead? Naturally, both parents being Indians, they were quite keen on me pursuing a degree in science. So my mother was very much keen on pushing me towards going towards medicine because that's where her interest was. And
Yeah.
my father wanted me to go towards engineering because that's where his interest was, so
Yeah.
typical expectations. And I was being burdened with that. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do either, and we had this awkward conversation. I remember sitting on the dinner table once saying, well, I don't think I want to do science, I think I'm more for commerce and I'd like to go for commerce. And I still remember that glare that I got from both my parents saying, and I felt like I had said something which was a sin, at the time. It felt like,
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about commerce, you're such a brilliant student. Why do you want to waste your life doing commerce? And I was like, what's wrong with it? And I remember that, going back in those days, it took us almost a month or two to get over that entire discussion where, I had to finally convince them saying, this is not where, I don't feel comfortable, but I feel comfortable doing this. I think I could do better with this. So I stumbled upon commerce, and I obviously after school started pursuing my high school
Okay.
with the commerce specialty. And then again, typically, being there, wasn't aware where I was heading. I knew commerce was where I wanted to broadly go, but still hadn't had it planned in detail in terms of what my next steps would be, what my career would be. But I had decided I wanted to go abroad, pursue a degree, a bachelor's from a good university abroad. And I think that's when we started exploring, and we started going to advise and the likes of, different career counselors, and started looking out for universities and the fees that we were being told for each of these universities, coming from a very modest, middle class, upper middle class background. It
Yeah.
seemed like a big pinch. And that's when I came across ACCA, through somebody at the time. And I'm talking about 2004, 2005. Like,
Okay.
people didn't have a clue about what ACCA was back then in India. It's
Mm-hmm.
completely different now. You go and you see ACCA pretty much everywhere. I go to Mumbai and I see adverts everywhere about ACCA, but at that time people didn't know. But it seemed like a good value for money proposition, because I was getting my bachelor's, I was getting my chartered accountancy qualification, and I was also getting to do pursue my dream, which was studying abroad, etc.
Okay.
So took it up, did it, sponsored my education,
Mm-hmm.
completed that, lived in London for about 8 to 10 years, worked within firms and industry within the relevant accounting roles. And then a few years back, well, I say a few years, but about 8 years back, I decided that is it. I didn't want to be an accounting and finance professional anymore. I wanted to do something different. There was definitely another calling. And I think that's how I came across the education industry, and I took a leap of faith, moved from PwC, got into the academy side of things, and I started working there, and it's been great so far since then.
That's amazing journey, Tahir. So when you were talking about that, your parents had a different expectations from you, and you wanted to go in accounting. Do you think that there is a perception about commerce background that people or the students who are not good in science, they generally opt for the commerce background? Do you think it's true?
Sadly, I think there is still some sort of perception, because as part of my role, with
Mhm.
ACCA, I do interact and engage with a lot of young sort of professionals, people who are still at universities, or people who are, at times in schools. And I go and do certain presentations at schools, and I speak to a lot of parents and students. And a lot of times it appears, and it's quite sad, but it appears as if, a lot of people, and I wouldn't say it's the students, but it's actually the parents who've got that mindset that commerce is a sort of, like a backseat profession. It's something that a second choice or an option. But I would like to, sort of, when I have these conversations with people, I always tell them, what do you see around you? Everything that's happening around you is basically supported by commerce. And I think having that understanding of commerce is very important. People fail to
Yes.
understand where commerce is. My father, for example, when I had that first conversation, very awkward conversation, he said to me, what do you want to do by taking commerce? And I said, I don't know, I'll do chartered accountancy. And he said, oh, are you going to write books for people? So that's the mindset, that's the perception. And it's difficult to explain people that commerce or accounting or finance is not just about writing journals, or it's not just about maintaining people's accounts. The profession has come a long way now. It's become so
Right.
dynamic. Accounting and finance professionals are the people that are looked out for. These are the people who make it, right up to the top, to the CFOs, CEOs, CEOs of the organization, because they understand the bloodline of
Yes.
businesses. They are the ones who understand where the money is coming in from, where it's going, how to better put that money to use. They're the one that help organizations make those really sustainable decisions. So, they are the key people. And if I am to give an analogy, I would compare accounting and finance professionals of an organization to the heart or a mind of the organization, without which the organization will not survive, won't be able to sustain for too long. So that perception needs to change. And I think with more of these things, with more of knowledge awareness, sessions and, talks like these, people will come to see that it's not just a backseat, profession, but it's more like a cornerstone profession. It's more like a forward-looking profession. It's something that everybody needs to know.
Yeah.
Accounting and finance is quite an important aspect of everyone's life. Whether it is an individual managing their own finances to, organizations who can guide them what to do, what not to do.
Yeah, I know it's the backbone of any kind of an industry, be it finance, non-finance, and it's I think it is one of the most prime thing, because the understanding of the logistics and the these transactions in the business is not an easy job. You need to have certain kind of skills and analytical mind to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, I used to work for a very highly reputed training provider in the region, and we used to, they used to have a specific program called Finance for Non-Finance Professionals, and
Okay.
every single person sitting within that training room was either a doctor, an engineer, somebody who had no experience of accounting and finance. 20 years, 30 years down the line in their careers, they would have felt the need that I'm stuck somewhere now. I can't go any beyond, I can't grow any further than this. I
Yes.
need to get back, and I need to understand how financial statements work, how financial reporting works, and what is behind each of these numbers that they see on these reports, fancy looking reports. And at that age, people would come and people would want to have that knowledge. So if you start early, you build your foundation, you couple that with any other profession, you've got a long way to go.
True, true. That is there. So, Tahir, let's start with the students, as many of the people who have joined us are either the students or the parents whose kids are looking for this field. So, what is the career options and the courses which are available? Like, is it only chartered accountants, CS? Or doing BCom? Which kind of courses students should pick up, so that if they want to make a career in this field?
Interesting. I mean, I think before I go into the professions, I like to give everybody a good understanding of what sort of what commerce is, and what do we mean when we speak about commerce. What do we mean actually? So let's think of commerce as, perhaps a galaxy. It's like a galaxy, and within commerce, and what's commerce? It's important to understand what commerce is. Commerce is everything that's going around us.
Mhm.
Organizations trading, manufacturing businesses, transactional businesses, logistic businesses, everything anything that is supporting trade, that is buying and selling, whether that's products or whether that's services, is all associated with commerce. So broadly, buying and selling on a larger scale is commerce.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that supports that buying and selling, anything that supports manufacturing, anything that supports transactions, anything that supports services and logistics and all of that is all associated or all supporting that buying and sell transactions. So when we say commerce, it's basically, trading. Anything that is supporting that trading is falling within that broad umbrella of commerce. And within each of those segments, whether you say HR or you say accounting or you say finance or you say investment, management, portfolio management, you say your procurement, your supply chain management, it's all within that broad umbrella of commerce, and it all boils down to one's I would say interest, their sort of vision, their strengths. It's all about understanding what your strengths are and where you want to go. Accounting and finance is one stream under commerce, and it's still quite a broad stream because even within the umbrella of accounting and finance, there are several different designations, several different roles. You could look at working like as an auditor or accounting finance or an accounting professional or finance professional. You could look into going into investment banking, managing money, portfolio funds, etc. There's a whole array of options available for people. So it's all about giving yourself that guidance, giving yourself access to that information, the knowledge, understanding what is involved within each of these professions, what is the future of those professions, where the industries are heading, what is going to happen, what are the new things that are coming in, what are the professions that are becoming obsolete, and then sort of going into. So speaking specifically of accounting and finance, it can range from anything. When you start your career and you've graduated with a possibly a degree in accounting and finance, you move on, you think about doing an academic qualification, you do a master's, or perhaps you do a professional qualification like ACCA, CA, anything of that sort. You are looking at starting from associate positions or positions where you start as a junior accountant, or you do an internship, articleship. You move up the ladder to becoming an accounting and finance manager or a risk consultant, an auditor, a tax advisor. There's so many different professions, and then you keep moving up the career, going into, if you were in the firms, which is the likes of PwC, the EY, Deloitte, and KPMGs of the world. You move up from associate all the way up to senior manager, senior manager, partner, director levels. If you were in the industry, you go all the way up to CEO, CFOs, CEOs of organizations.
Right. We have a question here from Nadia Shiraz. She says, are there any age limits to become an accounting professional? What is the practical reality in the job market out there around this?
See, there is never an age to learn. Learning sort of happens from cradle to your grave. We always learn, and there is never a right time to do anything. I've seen in my life individuals do MBAs and chartered qualifications at the age of 35, 40, 45, even just before retiring, etc. Because knowledge is knowledge. It doesn't matter whenever you take it, it's going to help you in one or the other way. Now, accounting and finance as a profession itself is a very interesting profession. It's very dynamic. Whether there is a recession or there is a boom, accounting and finance professionals are always looked after, always sorted, looked out for, because these are the people that will help organizations understand what to do, where they're going, how to sustain, how to survive, how much resources are needed within, a certain project, within, a certain specific or company, etc. These are the people that help organizations have that futuristic view, that vision, help them, sort of thrive within unfavorable sort of or favorable environment. So as a profession, it's a very good profession to be in. It's never going to die out. It's never going to go out of demand, because everybody needs to know what happens with their money. And companies, organizations exist, they need to have that visibility. So it's a good profession to be in.
So one thing, Tahir, I have seen these days, most of the universities are offering undergraduate courses along with ACCA as a certification. Do you think it is the right thing to do both the things simultaneously, or one should first finish off BCom, then go for ACCA, or finishing up both the things at same time is an added advantage for the students?
Very interesting question, and one which is very subjective, I think. I had a similar choice. I decided not to do anything except just keep pursuing ACCA for two reasons. A, because it was value for money. B, because during my qualifications journey, I was already getting a bachelor's degree from Oxford Brookes University. I didn't see any point in doing, in spending a money and time and effort behind pursuing another bachelor's degree. But that was me. That's how I thought, and that's how my parents thought was the right way to do. Everybody is different in their own ways. Some people like that sense of security. People think, well, I don't know if this is really what I want to do. Let me just do a bachelor's first, perhaps finish my bachelor's, then focus on my next steps. Some people are overly ambitious and they're like, okay, well, let me do my bachelor's, and then on the side let me also do a chartered qualification. So these are all different options available to people, and there's none of them, I would say, is the right thing or the wrong thing to do for anyone. I think the only thing for everyone is to understand and realize what their priorities are in life and how they want to go around achieving their goals, because everybody has a certain goal and they want to get up to a certain, sort of, they want to achieve that goal. How you go through, which route you take, is entirely up to you. Personally, if you asked me, I mean, I think the smarter way would be, if you know you want to pursue a professional qualification, i.e., if you want to do an ACCA, then you should just straight away jump into it, start doing your ACCA and finish it off, because you're getting the academic qualification along your journey. You're also getting the chartered qualification, and you remain focused, what you have got to do, rather than focusing on your bachelor's and then thinking about doing your papers at the same time, etc.
So, Tahir, if a person does ACCA, is the job market easily available for them? They get jobs easily?
Uh, they get the comment on the jobs, but certainly they are recognized. It's easier to get a job with a professional qualification than it is with just a bachelor's, because obviously, once you've completed a professional qualification, that naturally is telling an employer that this person is committed, this person is highly employable and has gone through a rigorous journey of completing a professional qualification, doing the exams and all of that. So, opportunities are there. It's just about how you approach them, how you groom them. And this is an interesting question, and every time somebody asks me this question, I tell them it's just completing a qualification will not get you jobs, and it's about grooming yourself and developing not just your technical skills, because these qualifications will drill in the technical skills in you, and to a certain extent the professional skills, but you've got to, as an individual, groom yourself, polish yourself, make yourself highly employable. You've got to create your own personal brand. You've got to make sure that you are effectively selling yourself to an employer, because yes, there are jobs available. Yes, there are possibly more than 1 or 10 or 20 people applying for that same job within that market. So fortunately or unfortunately, we're living in a world where competition is fierce. You've got to decide as an individual how you differentiate yourself, how you stand out of the crowd, and make yourself more highly employable. So yes, opportunities are there. Depends on where you are, whichever country you are, depending on what qualification you've decided to do and what is the recognition, the reach of that qualification, you can, look for opportunities. But when you're looking for opportunities, it's always good to go in with your own strong personal brand, even if it's as a starter. Consider going in with some experience or a little bit experience in your CV and things like that.
Yeah, very true, Tahir, because I have personally done many employability skill workshop among the different colleges. And I find that, students who are the highest scorers and who are very intelligent, they don't come up and talk about it. They are little aloof. And there are many students who will jump forward, no matter they are scoring very good or an average student, but then they catch the limelight. People know them more than the people who are scoring the highest. So it's very important, as you said, that we have to make us presentable. We have to, in this world where everybody is fighting for and there is a lot of competition, we need to work on the employability skills as well. Knowledge is important, but then how to present it is also very important.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, if you just think logically and if you just think in detail around why things are happening, just imagine why is there something like an interview process? Sometimes even one interview isn't enough. People have to go through several rounds of interviews. And then why do you think that exists? If people had to just hire employees based on their academics, on their qualifications, then your CV and your degrees were more than enough. You didn't have to go in person. When somebody is calling you in person for an interview, they want to judge you on more than one sort of criterias, and they want you need to be ticking a lot of other boxes apart from just achieving a qualification or having that academic sort of excellence or record or whatever. So it's important to be able to continually bear in mind that you've got to groom yourself, you've got to develop, think more holistic about your well-rounded development, professional development.
True. We have a question, Tahir from Jay Singh. He says, my friends say that accounting professionals carry the most risk among all the finance related roles. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm trying to just sort of comprehend the question. When you say risk, Jay, what sort of risk are you sort of referring to? Do you mean risk of losing jobs, or doing risk as in taking key decisions? Because there are a few things here. Now, accounting and finance professionals, depending on whatever level you are, when you get up the ladder, when you are on top positions, whether you are in accounting or you're a head of, you're a finance director or head of, accounting and finance, or you're a CFO or something, you will obviously contribute in terms of decision making. You will contribute, and there is risk involved in everything. But it's not like unless so the most riskiest profession within accounting and finance sphere would be somebody who's an investment banker, because there you're making investment decisions. And if you're somebody who's really senior, like a vice president or something of a department in a huge multinational investment bank, then you're probably placing bets on millions and $billion worth of deals. Those are high risk jobs. One mistake, one thing that goes wrong, you could make your company lose millions. But
I think that's what he's writing. He's saying risk in terms of getting involved in a financial inquiry on the company.
Yes, there is compliance. So you are at the risk of making wrong decisions. You're at the risk of not
accountable for your wrong decisions.
Yes, so you have to be accountable. That's with everything. You name a profession that is not accountable for anything. A pilot that's responsible to fly an aeroplane is also risking everybody else's life. One mistake and everybody on that plane, or an engineer or an architect that's helping develop or build a building is also taking a big risk, because one mistake from there, or they don't do their job correctly, the building collapses, and there's a big risk. Doctors, when they're operating somebody, is again a risky profession. Your somebody's life is practically in your hands. So risk is everywhere. As long as you do what you do confidently, and you're confident about your approach in doing certain things, I think you should be fine.
Yeah. So, Tahir, I have another question, which it's related to more of the academic side. That is math mandatory to be taken up for accounting and commerce, or people who don't have math background can also go for this career option? A basic understanding would help.
I get this question really, really strange. I get this question pretty much every time I have a conversation like this. And I don't know what is it about numbers and maths. Yes, mathematics is all about numbers and logic and all of that. But to answer the question simply, you don't have to be a mathematician to become an accounting and finance professional. All you need to know in order to become a successful accounting and finance professional is You need to know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. To do that, you get a calculator. Even in your exams, you can use a calculator. So you don't have to really, you don't have to really be a mathematician. Yes, a little bit of numerical literacy is needed, but it's not.
Added advantage.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to be a statistician or big maths guru or something like that.
To be honest, after you do your degree and you have the various things you have studied under mathematics, the only thing you use is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, so the real life implication of all the mathematics, I think it's only in the research field. Rest, these four things are enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Jay is saying that all that makes sense. All professions carry risk. Thanks for explaining. Thank you, Jay. So it was a very intelligent question. Then moving on, Tahir, I would like to ask you that what a person should keep in mind before taking up this accounting, commerce, and finance as their career choice. What pointers would you like to give them? Or what kind of people should have a certain kind of a skill set? Those people should select this as their career options.
I think one of the most important thing is you need to have the interest for this. So before you get into a profession like accounting and finance, you need to really sit down, take a step back and think whether is this something that you want to do, because everything else is pretty much these are not like skills that you can't develop. Accounting also as a subject is pretty logical, pretty systematic. You understand the concepts, you understand how things work, you understand the standards, and you pretty much you can get good at it. The most important thing is how keen you are, with numbers. Do you have an analytical brain? Do you like to analyze things? Do you like to interpret? Do you like to go into the depths of things? You like to sort of understand how organizations operate, what's behind every investing decision. Are you a curious person? And then once you've identified some of your strengths, you can pretty much develop and build the technical competencies, the technical skills that is needed to become a successful individual within an accounting and finance. So you don't have any specific skills to sort of pursue a career in accounting and finance, and it's the same with any profession. You've got to have the interest for it, you've got to have the inclination towards it, and then you just start working towards it, and you keep yourself constantly motivated, and you before you even realize you're going to be at the sort of at your goal.
Okay. So Tahir, I just felt like asking you that in your entire journey, how you selected this as your choice and the way you have taken up the current role, did you ever felt in your career journey that I wish I had known this earlier, it would have saved my time and I could have done better, or I would have, not gone through this channel, I would have taken another route to achieve to this point? Did you ever had that kind of a feeling, or you're yet to experience that?
No, I have been through that phase of my life, to be honest, Meghna, and I've learned some of my life's lessons the harder way. So I've learned my lessons slightly harder way, but I'm happy with where I am right now, and I think a lot of this was because I wasn't making informed decisions, and making informed decisions are very important. And how do you make informed decision is by accessing the knowledge of other people, seeking guidance. Like those of you that are attending this session today, I'm sure certainly you'll perhaps probably end up learning a little bit more than what you had known, earlier. You are all curious, you want to find out more about, where you want to head, or where yourselves, or if you're making a decision for your children, etc. It's all about having that source of guidance. I think in my case, to a certain extent, the curiosity was there, but I lacked that element of guidance, coming from India, and growing up pretty much in a herd mentality. Well, yeah, everyone is doing commerce, I'll also start doing commerce, and I'm going to college, and it gets into a day-to-day routine. You get into a systematic sort of cycle, and then before reality sort of hits you, you're like, oh my god, okay, now I'm coming to the end of my high school, and what else? What do I need to do with my life? Okay, well, what is everybody else doing? What is this person saying? What's that person saying? What's my cousin saying? What's my uncle saying? And it gets into all of this, but I think it's all about giving yourself access to the right information. We're fortunate. I mean, when I was making career choices, internet was a privilege. Having a computer was a privilege. Access to information wasn't so sort of easy. Only you had to rely on people, and take judgment calls whether this person is the right person, whatever this person is suggesting is actually making sense. So it was a lot difficult. This day and age, it's a lot easier. Everything is just available on a few clicks on our mobile phones. So
That's true, Tahir, as you mentioned, informed career choices, it is very important to understand that the choice you are making is not only based about your parents' guidance or around your friends or around your relatives. It is very important to make data-driven career choices, which I often tell to because, in me being in the career counseling field, I feel the mindset, especially the Asian mindset, for them, career counseling is university admission, where they don't realize that half of the process is already done. You don't have much of the choices once you reach to the stage of university admissions. The process starts much earlier. You need to reach out for professional help, analyze your child's strength, their interest, and then let them, you need validation of your. Sometimes people think, that something out of the box would come out under the career counseling process. But it is very important to understand that you might come to know things which you already know, but it's a validation that yes, you are thinking on the right track. So it is very important to do that in helping your child reaching a career in which less of hit and trials are there, as me and you have gone through our career path.
absolutely. And I think one thing I'd like to tell every sort of individual who's wanting to make a career decision, or even if this is parents who are sort of tuning into this session and listening to us speak, I think nobody can help a child make that decision. We all can give them guidance. We can show them, the pros and cons of going down a certain way. But I think the onus of making that decision, the onus of making that choice should really be left with the child itself, because
True.
you don't want to get to a point a few years down the line when you've completely invested a lot of years, studying something, becoming a professional, and then once you've started working as a professional, you're realizing, "Well, this isn't what I wanted to do, and I wish I would have not listened to my parents, or I wish I would have taken this decision at that time," etc. So try and be responsible for your own choices, and you can only be responsible once you know. So be confident, try and get access to a lot of information. Even career counselors will just give you that guidance, that light. They'll give you the facts, the reality of things, but the decision making sits with the individual themselves. When you've made your own decision, it's easier to live with the consequences of that decision, rather than just putting the blame on somebody else, I feel.
Yeah, true, very true. Tahir, we have another question from Shilpa. She says, do you suggest BCom International Finance and Accounting in collaboration with ACCA? And she also asked that does ACCA from India has a value in an international career?
So to answer the first question, yes, BCom plus ACCA, or whatever the bachelor's degree is with ACCA, is fine to do, as long as that's something that you want to do, or as long as that is something that your child wants to do, because you've got to understand a few things. This is also on someone's capability and how they can manage doing sort of multiple academic or professional qualification programs, because professional qualification exams are sort of challenging. they will need commitment, they will need time, they will need a lot of dedication and motivation. So if you, if the child is capable of, you know, really taking that much pressure of doing a bachelor's, you know, trying to meet with the demand and the requirements of that bachelor's program, and then on the side pursuing a professional qualification, then that's fine. But every child is not the same, you know, they're all different. Every child has got a different threshold of capacity that they can take, you know, consuming that knowledge, consuming that pressure, dealing with that, coping with that pressure. So you don't want to break that child's morale. So I think in answering this question, it's really important to answer, to understand the capability of the child, the strengths of that child. Are they capable of, or are they motivated enough to do multiple you know, qualifications side by side? If not, then I think it's best to either let them do a bachelor's first, complete the bachelor's, and then focus on ACCA. Yes, it might take them some time to finish that, but then there's no rush. You don't be, you know, this is again a sort of a cultural thing and a mentality thing. And I've realized this myself, maybe after a few years, you know, living all these years in the UK. You don't have to necessarily finish all your education in one go. Learning
Yeah.
is lifelong. You know, you finish your bachelor's, you go and start working for a few years, you see, understand how things work, you experience what real life working scenarios are, you decide, you make career choices. Well, this is what I enjoy doing, this is what I don't like, you know, working about this profession. And then you start thinking about, okay, well, if I want to have a career in this profession, then okay, what is my next step? So you don't need to rush a child to complete their bachelor's, complete their master's, complete their professional qualifications, do everything. It's not going to get them anywhere. You know, it's not like if they've completed everything, somebody will ask them to join in as a CEO or a CFO. They're still going to
Mhm.
have to start at the basic, you know, right at the bottom.
Right.
And to start at the bottom, the minimal requirement is a bachelor's or a degree, or, you know, a part qualified CA or something. So it's all about understanding the capability. So that's my answer to your first question. Sorry, Meghna, what was the second question?
It says ACCA from India has a value in an international career. It's a global body, so it's not India or any region, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. It's a professional qualification that has over 230,000 members, over 5,500, so 5.5 lakh students, all spread across the globe. You know, so the
Mhm.
qualification is recognized and sort of accepted within 178 countries of the world. So it's an international qualification. It's a UK based chartered body, but accepted anywhere in the world, except in the USA and Canada. It's not as widely accepted because their accounting standards are slightly different. ACCA is a qualification in the US and Canada. AICPA, which is the Chartered you know, Public Accountants, that is more sort of highly recognized and accepted. But again, having said that, if there are multinational organizations that are dealing with IFRS, which is, you know, making their financial statements on international financial reporting standards, even in the US and Canada, they do hire IFRS qualified professionals. So it's pretty much a global, you know, globally accepted qualification.
Yeah, so and I think ACCA is coming back to the students. It's as you said that there is no pressure of doing everything together. I think this mindset also needs to be changed. That I recently met a parent. My son is already 18 years old. He is lagging behind any shortcut course so that he can directly join the university. So I told them that at one point of time, age doesn't matter. Nobody's going to ask you whether you completed your education at the age of 22 or 25 or 30.
Mm.
It is, and earlier there was a concept that doctors have to be, updated and reading throughout their life. But I think it is applicable to all the profession now. Me and you, if we can't, if you're not able to upgrade ourselves, then there is not going to be much of scope left for us. So this technical guidelines which is set by the society doesn't matter. I think an ACCA is a very competitive and tough thing. It's not an easy thing. I have seen students, there are different levels, I believe, and you have to clear them. And once you reach, so it's a big achievement. So you should give time to your child to complete that. There should not be pressure tactics on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. You don't want to burden them with too many things, that can break them right at the start of the journey, because it's more about learning and realizing things on themselves. Let them do the basics, and then let them decide for themselves. And it's also important to, and I've seen this, culturally, this is a very big thing. We as Asian children are so protected by our parents all the time. They want to be making all the important decisions of our life. They want to make sure that we have a good future, we have a good foundation, invest in us, make us study, go through a very hardcore pressurizing schooling system, and then constantly compete. If you go to the West, it's completely different over there. The
Yeah.
children are pretty very independent. They let the kids explore their lives, they let the kids explore the world, make decisions themselves. Kids there start working early on. In India, if we were to go and tell our parents, oh, well, I'm thinking of doing a job in the summers or something, are you crazy? Go and do a computer course or do something else, get another certificate. Forget everything. I'm giving you pocket money, and that needs to change. People
Yes.
need to experience, they need to start working as early as possible so they understand how the real life, working scenario is. And that's when they'll be able to make that, they'll be in a better position to make the right career choices, make the right career decision.
Mhm. So, Tahir, which makes me ask you that if anybody who is not from the accounting background has started his career in a certain field not related to this, but later he thinks that he wants to try this, or he has an inclination towards it, uh, would you advise making that career change after a certain level of experience in a different industry?
Yes, absolutely. Why not? If they realize that that's where their true calling is, it's never too late. Because what's the point in continuing a journey that or you realize you're not happy, being on anymore? If you
Hmm.
want to deviate, then yes, by all means, you can deviate. I made that decision. I don't know how. Yeah, about 8 years ago. I was a qualified chartered accountant, did ACCA, never went to a university. Straight away after school, started studying for ACCA, graduated, with ACCA qualification with a bachelor's from Oxford Brookes University. And then after having worked for 5 years, 6 years within the industry and the firms, I said, well, it's not motivating enough for me to get out of my bed, jump out of my bed, dress up, go to work. And so this is not going to, be sustainable. It's not going to constantly, keep me happy. What do I need to do? And that's when I decided to make a shift. That's when I jumped into the education side of things. I, switched my profession career completely. And my foundation as ACCA has helped me. Knowledge never goes wasted. It's never a bad time to switch careers or switch professions. We all do. I mean, if there are people on this call that are experienced, or there are parents, a lot of them would have realized we would have studied something else and ended up doing something completely different in our lives. So it's never
Right.
too late.
So we have another question, Tahir, from Nadia. It says, what has been the impact of the rise of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin on the field of accounting?
Ah, there is going to be a huge impact. Cryptocurrency, in my view, and this is again a very subjective matter. It's quite premature as well, to speak about cryptocurrency from a profession standpoint. But yes, it is going to be a future in which it's going to be a currency in which future transactions will probably happen. There is still that perception and expectations gap in the cryptocurrency world, but a lot of people are getting involved into cryptocurrency. A lot of new cryptocurrencies are coming out. It's going to start becoming a legit. It's all about regulation and industries and governments recognizing. A lot of Western countries, huge, big, say for example, Tesla, has decided to accept cryptocurrency as payments for some of their transactions and things like that. So you know it's too soon to comment on the impact on the profession, because there's a lot of regulatory requirements. There's a lot of things around. For example, Facebook, the rise of social media, and there was no regulation around social media in terms of what was allowed to put on, not, etc. Privacy statements, things like that. Facebook and a lot of these social media companies are now being scrutinized. There's regulations coming in, around a lot of this as well, which then has an impact on different industries, etc. So yes, crypto will bring an impact on the accounting and finance profession. What sort of impact is yet to be sort of discovered.
Mhm. Right. That makes me ask, Tahir, that does pandemic had an impact on the industry?
It had an impact on the world. It had an
Yeah.
impact on our lives. It's Some of that was positive, some of that was unfortunately negative. We experienced things that we'd never experienced before. We had to stay indoors. We were pretty much in lockdowns and a lot of different things, schools being shut, education systems being sort of shuffled and then sort of really shaken. So accounting and finance was no exception. It has an impact with businesses losing revenues, with industries shutting, a lot of small to mid-sized industries, going bankrupt, etc. There has been financial implications, overall. There's been impact. There has been an impact. It's not like everybody has lost a job. We're still here. People are making their means in one or the other way. But yes, a lot of this will have some regulatory sort of changes. There's going to be a few things that might change. We've experienced life like we had never experienced that before. This is pretty much possible because of the pandemic. We're having this conversation digitally. I'm sitting in Dubai somewhere. Meghna, you're somewhere, and I don't know. All our audiences are probably tuning in and listening to us from wherever.
Across the
So
globe, yeah.
this is all an effect and an impact of the pandemic.
Yeah, I think pandemic has got something good. Of course, there were struggling phases, but yes, we have learned to adapt the new normal, and pandemic has opened a lot of new avenues and platforms also for us. And the way you said that, we are on Zoom across different part of the world, and we can exchange information and help each other grow. So that's great. I would just like to tell all the people here that it's last 10 minutes. If you have any other further questions, you can always put it in the chat box and we can take it up while we are having a conversation. So, Tahir, tell us, what is your regular day looks like? How many hours you have to commit? Because everybody thinks, that once you're at a certain level, it's a high salary package, easy life, nice car, but how much effort you have to put up? What is your daily work life is?
Me, it's quite different. I like to constantly be glued to my work. I away from work is quite difficult, and I find it quite difficult to sort of leave things. I was on my leave. I was on my annual leave a couple of weeks back, and I
Mhm.
think this was the first time in so many years that I decided consciously that I'm not going to look at my emails. I'm not going to take my laptop with me, and I'm not going to be in touch. I'm just going to disconnect completely. But normal day for me is pretty much quite structured. I do my daily routines, mornings, workouts, and then start off with my office routine. Calls, meetings, a lot of those things happen. There is obviously a cutoff point. You've got to realize, and it's all about finding a balance.
Mhm.
Your personal life, your professional life, and when you're basically enjoying what you're doing professionally, work is no longer work. It becomes a part of your life, and then it's just managing time for work, time for family, time for your children, your wife, your parents, whatever it is. You just sort of work it all out. So there are days where I have to work at the weekends, but then there are days in the weekdays as well where I can go out with my family, pretty much go out and do groceries. So alhamdulillah, it's been quite a pleasant journey so far, and it's been good. But you've got to constantly keep challenging yourself. There's never a time anyone can say, well, I feel 100% accomplished. You learn always, like you said, some time back, Meghna, you said you've got to keep yourself updated constantly. You've got to keep ensuring you are investing in yourself, you are investing in your professional development, because learning never stops. Like I said earlier, you've got to, as an individual, keep learning. It's not, and learning is not about accumulating certificates and accumulating degrees and all of that. You
True.
learn new things, big or small, doesn't matter. You keep updating yourself, even if it's just reading or attending a session like this or listening to people talk, it's still enhancing your knowledge.
True.
So yeah, it's all about having that balance and finding that right balance in life.
Yeah, that is very, and see, you are in a field where you love to do what you want, so you are quite comfortable, even if you are if you have to stretch on a day for certain hours, and you are happy that you can balance out your family life as well as your work life. So when your interest and your work is aligned, there is no feeling of, oh my god, I have to work on a weekend, or I have to do this. It's you're enjoying the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think, Tahir, we have covered up most of the important points, as right from the choice of taking up this thing, then whether people should go for graduation or ACCA, both the options are viable. And we also discussed that it is not important, or it is not mandatory to do everything in sequence, finish it off, and then move on further. The important takeaway which you said was that complete a course, work for some time, gain experience, because while working also, you come to know many things and discover that, okay, this is something which is interesting, and I would like to learn that skill more. So we should be open to the option of learning and then going into the job, then again if you want to get into the learning process. So meanwhile, we have another question. ACCA mentions that accounting is helping with global warming. How is that, Nadia?
uh, so that's true, and accounting and finance as a profession has taken a pledge to, help fight certain instances that support global warming. For instance, something as little as going green, and we see this in our day-to-day lives. You go to an ATM now to withdraw cash, you get immediately three options in front of you. Do you want a receipt? You do not print a receipt, send it to me in an email, etc. Everything has gone digital. We're trying to, the profession is trying to take steps where it can help organizations, reduce their carbon footprint, reduce their emissions, make more sustainable decisions, make more sustainable investments to really help tackle global warming issues. As an organization, ACCA has pledged to support a lot of the UN, sustainable development goals, a lot of which also in a way helps support fight, some of the concerns around global warming. So, it's not about a profession; it's about every individual understanding, and taking some responsibility. So if we all start doing our little bits, i.e., even if it is things like not leaving our car engines on, even if we are going just 10 steps away. I know this is a very common practice in the Middle East side of things. We like to keep our cars cool. We
Mhm.
leave the engines on and we go, oh, well, I'm just going to grab something from the shop there, and we come back. But simple things like turning your engine off so there's less emissions, switching lights off, using less paper, etc. This is all our little bits that we can do on a micro level, and then organizations will do on a bigger level, and then governments will do things on a macro level, will help support global warming. So accounting and finance as a profession is not an exception. We like to contribute in our own ways as well.
Yeah. Nadia is saying that's very nice to know. Thanks. That's wonderful. I think the time is up. We didn't realize that 1 hour has gone. It was a wonderful conversation with you, Tahir. You have given us real inputs, real time inputs, practical inputs, and I think which are can prove to be a good guideline for the people who have joined us today in making their decisions. And thank you, audience, for joining us today. If you still feel after the webinar that certain questions questions pop up to your mind, you can always email it to us. Me and Tahir would love to answer that. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tahir, for joining us, taking out time for us. And we would like to work together in future. Take care. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Meghna. It was a pleasure being on this session. I always enjoy, sharing whatever little knowledge I have with people. If it helps anyone, make a better decision. So my pleasure, and good luck to everybody that's listening in to us. And hope this session has helped you with understanding a few things.
Yeah, I mean, Tahir, it's a wonderful way of giving back to the society. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye.